Supposedly, there's no non-combatants, according to Israel, in Gaza. We should also say that their behavior also suggests they don't believe that that's the case on the West Bank, too, even though Hamas is not there. There's been over 100 killings of Palestinians in the West Bank since October 7th.
And we should say the West Bank has been demilitarized since the 90s, so the people that have the guns are the Israelis. Palestinians are not armed, and they're not able to defend themselves from some of the settler violence sanctioned and encouraged by the IDF.
Bernie Sanders came out and said, we need to talk about conditioning Israeli funding based upon what's happening in the West Bank. This is not a new position for him. He's been saying that for
2020 at least.
I think even going back as 2018. But it's almost like a proxy. It's sort of a bizarre proxy, it seems to me. Like we're gonna avoid what's going on over here, and we're not going to say anything about the murder that's taking place over here, but we are going to say like, you're gonna like a traffic violation. We got to look into that.
Yeah,
Katie Porter, when she went on that trip with AIPAC and Hakeem Jeffries and got a little bit of blowback, a month later she's in the news saying, "Oh yeah, I'm really worried about these settlers. What these settlers are doing." It's like, sure you are. Yeah,
I mean, but putting conditions on this aid package is putting lipstick on a $14 billion pig, and that pig is about to kill a child every 10 minutes.
Biden's approval rating is at one of its lowest, and it appears that a big thing that is driving his disapproval numbers right now is down 8 points from September. 33% of all voters approve of Biden's handling foreign policy. 30% of Democrats also, and it's mostly people under the age of 35. It is really, really dragging him down. And there was an attack right before we went on air. Hezbollah struck a military base in northern Israel. I don't know if we have too much more information on that, but the idea of like this becoming a regional conflict increases, obviously, for the longer that Israel is engaged with Hamas and killing Palestinians. It's, I don't know at what point the Biden administration says we've stopped putting good money after bad, as it were. But right now, this, it's like and not just on a moral ground, obviously, but on in terms of like
political self-preservation.
Yeah,
exactly.
He made an assessment that this wouldn't hurt him politically, and I think that's Silver? Very outdated. This kind of young people living through this is the kind of thing that's going to change their worldview for the rest of their lives. Witnessing what's happening in Gaza. Go on.
Nate Silver tweeted out yesterday, or not yesterday, but earlier on in the conflict, that young people were likely to be supportive of Joe Biden's support for Israel. And it's like, what made you think that would happen?
That is stunning. Like, I can understand. Yeah. I can understand based upon like, if you're 65 or older, saying people don't really care about foreign policy.
He quote tweeted Waleed Shahid on October 19th saying, "The polling is a very long ways from perfect, but it's still better than relying on your peer group. Biden's stance is likely to be popular, including with young voters. It's actually exceptionally unpopular with young voters, but also unpopular with everyone."
Your peer
it's
group
unpopular with everyone,
like
but particularly, yes. I mean, I don't know how Nate Silver is on very specific numbers in, let's say, baseball, rotisserie league. But once he gets out of that realm, it is really nuts.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Waleed Shahid, in terms of...
that was October 19th. Now, I guess, to be fair, if you were completely oblivious, you might think that this would be have been over by now, a month later.
Maybe check your models on that one too.
Young people grew up in the Iraq War era, and this is a continuation of like collective understanding from that age group 18 to 34 about foreign policy and what our government really does.
It really is. What's really sort of like beautiful about this Nate Silver tweet? Have you put it up on the screen? Yeah, we did. Let's put it up again, because this is almost like a piece of art. Honestly, Waleed Shahid says back in October 18th, in terms of young voters turning sour, Gaza could do to President Biden what Vietnam did to LBJ. So he is saying, I'm looking into the future. We don't know what's going to happen in Gaza, but it definitely has the potential to do to President Biden what Vietnam did to LBJ. So he's not making a current assessment. Yeah. And Nate Silver, in just a, like, the hubris, the confidence couldn't be more inverse than the competency in this moment. The polling is a very long ways away from perfect. In other words, he's now being just incredibly condescending. Yeah. Polling's not perfect, Waleed, but it's still better than relying on your peer group, Waleed.
Yeah.
Of all your people who might be sympathetic to Palestinians, Waleed.
Which Nate Silver would never do. He's not influenced whatsoever by his peer group of cocktail New York Times folks. He's just looking at things objectively.
In what possible universe could you have said at that time, or really any time? First of all, that like, when has foreign policy been popular with young people, short of like making some, bringing about like some type of like detente, or I imagine like Obama's to the extent that people knew about the Iran deal was somewhat popular. But when has the waging of a war ever been popular, if people paid attention to it, which is very often the case, they don't, been popular with young voters? Like, where was even the slightest data point to make this? I think you're right. It was just around Nate Silver's friend group.
Yeah, can you click on Waleed's tweet, actually, because I'm curious. Is it that polling about Arab voters in Michigan? That's what I'm assuming. Click the quote tweet. The quote tweet. Yeah. What? Oh wait, no. He's just assessing it based on
an assessment.
Yeah, he's
like
saying that. But there has been polling to back it up.
Well, yeah, but that was a month ago.
Exactly. So I mean, even then, it's the idea that Nate goes out of his way to make this case. Yeah. No, so Waleed was just making his like a political assessment, and Nate Silver goes out of his way. Yeah, Israel is not popular among young people. It's definitely not popular among young people of color. It's also not popular among young Jews.
Like I'm thinking, like the last time I remember young people, like I'm thinking back to like Rick Perlstein talking about early Vietnam, and like some young people supported that. But like since then, I think that turned. I think it was probably the last time young people were like belligerent,
right? And that's coming out of the 50s,
right?
And McCarthyism, and the idea that there was a rump amount of young people who are still sort of like in this sort of full-on Cold War mentality, not surprising. Yeah. But there's no. This is not 1975, where we're not people aren't coming out of the theaters watching Paul Newman in Exodus and going like, I still let's go for these Sabras. Yeah. That's not what's going on here. And really, you have to be a complete moron not to have been aware of that. I mean, the idea that like, yes, there's no doubt that, maybe around my Thanksgiving table, there might be some people who are, sort of have that perspective. But the idea that you call yourself like a professional political commentator and make that is just shocking.
Also, like using the authority that like looking at aggregated polls has won you. Like the thing he says,
and then
there,
not to base your comment on any type of polling,
but to allude to it, say like the polling isn't perfect, which is a admission that like like, yeah, we don't have a good indicator on that, which is the only place that his insight comes from. And then just to say like, but if the polling was better, it probably would agree with me.
Yeah, that's the extra like dripping condescension there, is that he's editorializing, but he does this constantly and pretends.
I've seen a lot of polls.
Pretends that it's not based in polling. Yeah. I mean, if you want to editorialize, Nate, maybe just like have a better grasp of actual politics, because people that have engaged with this topic for years at this point, not just starting on October 7th, know that Israel has been slowly losing the information war on social media, which young people consume. So it's not the TikTok algorithm and the Chinese communists coming to brainwash your kids. It's a broad understanding and education that's been happening over a long period of time, accelerated by Israel's crimes of genocide in Gaza.
And also, all you need to do is look back, during the Obama years. I mean, Tim Kaine did not show up for a Netanyahu address to Congress, and frankly, a bunch of other U.S. senators. I mean, this is not a new phenomenon. The trend was going in a certain way.